Welcome to TriEmbed, November 2023. I believe everyone has been here before, so no introductions are needed. Announcements. Anything going on?
Nah.
How many people went to PCB Carolina last Wednesday?
What time?
Food was good.
Was it?
Yeah.
Was it barbecue and chicken again?
Barbecue chicken. They had breakfast, and I just go for the food.
Okay. And supposedly they had, I think, the highest level of attendance they've ever had.
Yep.
And um,
No, it was
90 some exhibitors.
yeah. They had an overflow room, and it's yeah. It was I generally kind of leave midday, but this time I stayed to make sure I didn't win the television set because I wanted somebody else to win it.
Okay. Did they have to pull a lot of names because people weren't there?
Yeah, no, they pulled a couple, but it's I knew that if I left, they would call my name, so it's
Yep. Well, I did not make it because I was away in the mountains visiting my granddaughter and playing pickleball at Lake Lure, and so
just generally goofing off.
yeah,
Good.
had a relaxing week. The So I went to the scheduled pickleball open play that they have there on their outdoor courts at 1 o'clock on Tuesday. And there was no one there, so I went into the office there, and they said, "Well, sorry about that. Uh, the 1 o'clock group meets at 10." No, they didn't tell me that. I met the guy who runs the pickleball group a little bit later that afternoon, and he said, "Oh yeah, we don't want to play at 1. It's too hot out in the sun, so we play at 10 o'clock." Yeah.
They just
So
didn't mention that.
they didn't mention that at the front desk. So I came at 10 o'clock on Thursday and played with the 1 o'clock group at 10 on Thursday. And I was not there at 1 o'clock to see if anybody else showed up. But welcome, Pete.
Hi.
You want to tell us anything about PCB Carolina? Did you go last week?
I did. Watched. I did 2 technical sessions. One on medical device approval processes, and learned quite a few things about that. And then the other was about getting rid of low frequency noise and circuit design to specifically eliminate, arrange for the impedance, either to be, infinite or at least very high for low frequencies, and lots and lots of common mistakes that folks make when they're cabling things together, and so that was fun, and lunch was great.
Good. All right. Any other announcements of upcoming events? So last month we talked about meeting in person in December. I'm up for that. However, on December 11th, I'm going to be out of town. So I can make a virtual meeting, but I would have difficulty getting to Abbey Road if that's where you guys want to meet. So I'm open to suggestions. We can wait till January, or you can meet without me, or
Oh,
we
we
can
can't meet without you. It
try
wouldn't
to
be the same.
try to find a different time. That's around Christmas, so a lot of those rooms get booked up for most of November. I don't know.
I don't think we even have to have a room. We can. There aren't a whole bunch of us. We can sit around a table and.
All right. Well, I guess I'm open to suggestions if anybody has if we want to meet virtually as well as have dinner somewhere in December, that'd be great.
Let's do it for the January meeting when all the rush is over.
Okay. That sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, it might be easier in the long run.
There's a restaurant in the area that I'm familiar with that it seems to be a very, very good place for meeting where you can have a quiet area within the restaurant. And I'll look it up. I'll look up the details and send that.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So if there are no other announcements, let me go ahead and do the problem of the month. All right. Are we seeing that?
Yes, we are.
So this is the dashboard of my Toyota RAV4. And when you turn the car off, this little thing pops up on the dashboard and tells you how far you've driven, how long it took, and what your fuel economy was, which is kind of cool.
So does it automatically know when to start and stop?
It does it by the ignition switch, right? It starts when you turn it on and stops when you turn the car off. However, if you happen to have your foot on the brake, that little display is up there for about half a second. And then up pops this helpful message that says, if you want to start your car, put your foot on the brake and press the ignition button. Or if somebody opens a door, up pops a little image of the car with a door sticking open. And that's it. You can never get that information back that I've figured out. It's not logged, so I can't find the last N trips. When I first started in embedded computing and Arduinos and stuff, I wanted to have a timer that would tell me how long it took me to drive to work. I wanted to be able to look at how long it took. Maybe if I take different routes, I could compare that. And so that was one of the very first things I wanted to do. I never really did do it. So the requirements for this project is I want it to be based on, I want to get the elapsed time. That's more important to me than the miles driven or the fuel economy. And I would like to get it to the cloud somehow so that I have a permanent record. Optional things would be like, how far I drove, where the trip started and ended, how much fuel was used, the time and date of the trip, things like that.
CAN bus.
CAN bus, okay.
You got it upside down there, Bill.
Right, so that'll plug into your OBD2 port. And that'll get you started, maybe.
That'll get you started, but you probably want to do an Arduino and attach to the CAN bus yourself.
Yep. So how much of what's on the CAN bus is unencrypted and easy to access and not vendor specific, and and things like that? Do you know, Bill?
I believe most of what you're looking for is open and standards based. I don't know. This guy here has a PIC microcontroller, I think, or something like that, and it has its own serial protocol that it talks over Bluetooth, I should say.
To a
so
cell
it does
phone,
a lot
I
of things.
assume, right?
Yeah, to a cell phone, and it does its interpretation that way. But I've hooked it up to Bluetooth on my laptop and used some Python programs to pull that data. But this is doing a lot more than just CAN. It does the other protocols in the older cars. So if yours is a newer car, as in, what is it, newer than 2014 or something, just
right. OBD2.
Just do CAN, right? It should just be CAN. It shouldn't use any of the other weird protocols from the older car lines.
And that does more than just diagnostic scanning?
There's an app for this. There's various apps for these, and it's been so long since I've used it. I don't know which app to use.
Okay.
But it'll, over Bluetooth, the raw serial protocol will just continually spit out messages over Bluetooth, and you just have to read that stream and grab the parts you want. I think there's some, with this particular guy, you can send commands to tell it which fields you want it to report on.
And it'll do filtering for you?
It'll do the filtering, yeah. But if you just hook onto the CAN bus, you can have your Arduino just select the messages it's interested in and ignore the rest.
Okay.
CAN's pretty well documented.
Yeah. I assume there are libraries.
Little guy.
What was that?
Yeah.
How much?
This was like $25.
Oh, really? That's not bad.
I was looking at some.
So I modified it. I've added a little jumper on the side, but because I want it on all the time, I didn't want it turning off. And different cars have different power, use different power pins switched on the ignition, and some, don't. But that was easy. There should be an Arduino CAN bus
library.
Cape.
Shield, okay.
Shield. How far have you got?
I haven't done anything on it yet.
Okay.
So
I did do, several years ago, I did a PCIe CAN bus driver and did that under Linux. But I've never hooked it to a real car.
Okay. When I first was envisioning doing this, people were telling me, oh, the power that you get in cars is really noisy and bad, and you got to be real careful about. Does anyone have any experience with that? Hooking up to, one of the fuses in the fuse block or something that comes on when the car gets turned on.
Well, usually the cigar lighter power has that property.
That it comes on when the car comes on, when the ignition
Yeah.
comes on.
Yeah, typically, yes. I've never seen a counterexample.
Although I've never had the experience directly on a car, I just read an article somewhere, I can't even remember where they were talking about the power is in a car is generally quite noisy. So yeah, you would probably have to do something to filter out a lot of the power line noise.
And I think newer cars, they might have, like I've seen some of them where they have a power port that's always on. They're not even cigarette lighters anymore. Like you might have them two right beside each other, and one will be always on and one not. But your manual should tell you.
Geez, the newer cars even have cigarette lighters anymore?
No, they have things that look like cigarette lighters, but there is not a thing in
Right.
there that you push that gets hot.
Oh,
Right, it's a power port in
It's all
that
plastic.
format.
And they tell you not to put a heating element in there.
Do you want? I've got a broken one of these. If you want to take one and pull it apart and look at the power management,
That might be interesting. Yeah.
or I can photograph it. That's the other way. But you can get on here. Your car should at least have one pin that's activated by the ignition key and for power, and then some cars another pin is activated all the time. Has power all the time.
Yep.
In addition to that, so just how noisy it is, I don't know, but you're going to be stepping it down anyway, right? So
right.
Whack in a capacitor or two and filter away.
My Google
Stereo.
Earth gives me every month I get a listing of where I went that month, and I have a listing going back 11 years with every place that I have been, which I consider a little bit intrusive, but it's kind of fun to know. It's kind of fun to know what I was doing 5 years ago at this time.
Yeah.
So it's that would that gives me every trip by planes, buses, whatever I took.
but as long as you had your cell phone on you, huh?
Yeah, well, it's we don't leave our cell phones unless we're about to commit a crime, in which case it's a good
You leave it at
distraction.
home. Yeah, I know my Google has a complete recording or complete data set of every place I've been since I've had a smartphone.
Yep.
So what
it's
about
a little bit intrusive, but okay, fine.
what about using a GPS chip and only using one bit from the car that says whether the
I've
ignition
got
is on or off?
I have in the Edge code in my release, there's a I can turn my cell phone on, have it transmit the GPS data, and get the GPS data inside of the ESP. So if I'm collecting data, for water temperature, etc., I know exactly where the temperature was taken.
And that's done over HTTP?
It's a UDP transmission out of the cell phone. So it's the cell phone just bursts out of UDP every once in a while, and I listen for it, and that gives me the GPS coordinates and the time. But I can do it Bluetooth too.
Just a quick FYI, you can disable that location history.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that's my alibi.
No, officer, I was not there on that date.
Yeah, I
My
could
cell
not have.
phone was, but I wasn't.
Yes, I could not possibly have committed that.
Infraction of the law.
Yes.
So
Looks like
it's a
Oh,
seven,
wow, that's the
there's a 7805 up here, and then you've got two
two
electrolytics.
capacitors. Yep.
But I'll send better resolution photos if you want. And then the little blue board is the Bluetooth serial communicator.
hold it up a little higher. There you go.
Up there. Sorry.
Yeah, the numbers on there are a little out of focus, but that's okay.
Yeah. All right.
So we got two Richards, and one of them raised their hand.
Hello, Richard. You're muted.
Both Richards are muted.
Richards, unmute yourselves.
If you want to talk.
I don't know. It sounds like a mute point.
Rose the red, violet's the blue. I'm schizophrenic, and so am I.
All right, any other ideas on how we might do this data logging on the car?
Get real simple, right? If you just want to create something and plug it into your USB, into your power port, either USB port or your output port, and then put a USB adapter, which most of these things boards still have like a micro or mini USB or even USB-C power.
Right.
The trick to me would be, what do you do how do you get the data in the cloud because you want to go by when the power goes off. So you might need a little battery or something to detect the power's off and then upload on battery power and shut off. Or if you don't really care about timing, eventual consistency method would be, the next time it turns on, you upload it.
Yep.
I
Say,
have
log into an SD card or something.
I have a Wi-Fi charger, not a Wi-Fi, but a wireless charger in the car, so that when I get in the car, I throw the cell phone in that, and it stays on. So you could, if you send it through the cell phone.
Yeah, so it would need the ignition switch power and the full-on power, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And that is detected by the fact that the Wi-Fi power is delivering, so the cell phone knows it's on a charger.
Can you have it connect to your MQTT server when you're within Wi-Fi range?
Well, I was thinking that might be a good way of knowing location. Maybe I don't really care if it turns on and I do a scan for Wi-Fi. If I get my home network, I'm pretty sure I'm at home. And if I get one at work, maybe I know I'm at work. And if I get one at school, maybe I know I'm at school. And if I'm who knows where, it's not going to find what it knows, and so it wouldn't really know where you were, but it could log that information and wait until you're back to a known Wi-Fi.
I guess it depends whether you want to know location or just trip and efficiency, like it displays on the screen, and just be able to log that.
Yeah.
And then monitor your car's
my
performance.
original thing was I start out and I say, okay, I'm going to time this trip, and I look at my watch and I drive to work, and a couple hours later I say, oh damn, I never did look at my watch when I got to the parking lot.
Right. I've done that
hundreds of times.
Yeah, I've done that.
So I want to be able to go back and look through these things and say,
I have a stopwatch in the car which I don't look at.
okay.
I don't even have to not look at my watch. I can not look at my stopwatch.
If it could log, yes, I was able to see the Wi-Fi network at work at the end. Then I could at least flag the trips that ended up at work and compare the times on all those. If we had GPS, maybe I could do some waypoints along the way and figure out which route I took. All right, any other ideas?
Buy a dash cam that has GPS.
A dash cam that has GPS, okay.
And that might have some of the features that you're after built in.
It would probably do auto start and stop of
Oh yeah, but where's the fun in that?
trips.
We're engineers. We do things the most complicated way possible.
You don't have
Well-
to do it that way.
Oh yes, you do. It's part of the
Dash
union
cam.
contract.
Dashcam has other benefits.
Okay, yeah, that's a good alternative. I was playing pickleball yesterday, and there was this high lob, and this guy turns around and runs backwards and turns back to find it, and it hits him right on top of the head. And he said, oh, I hope nobody had a cell phone going. All right. Guess now it's time for show and tell. I've got one thing to show, but I'll yield the floor to somebody else who wants to go first.
I took Nick's advice and bought one of those flexible LED panels off of Amazon.
Yeah, I've got many LED panels. Flexible ones. I've got strips. I've got discs. This was an eBay score, which is it's a 16-bit 200 megahertz A to D converter, and the FPGA board to be able to drive it and collect data. And I think I spent $80 on both of them. So it's a 200 megahertz 16-bit scope. Basically, it does all the functions are built into the FPGA.
And does it come with software or not?
Yes.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, I'm not going to sit down write software to program the FPGA, but yeah, it does FFTs. It does software-defined radios. It's an analog devices board, and it's got pretty extensive software. And I bought the FPGA board, and then this board came up for, I think I paid $20 for the FPGA board, considerably less than market. And then this board, which is the front end, came up for $50, and I couldn't not buy it. I could not control my hand. It went to the buy it now click before I could, before my brain could engage. And now I got to figure out what to do with it.
That was going to be my question. What you going to do with it that you need that frequency for?
Well, I don't have a good answer, but I want one. It's just pure technical fetish. It is. I feel, I feel superior now I have one. I feel like a complete human being. I can actually collect data at 200 megahertz. Not that I have any data at 200 megahertz, but if I did, I could collect it and put it somewhere. Which impresses me, if not anyone else. The front end board is a standard front end board that does a whole bunch of other stuff, and that I wanted for some other stuff I was doing. The 200 megahertz was just I had no control over my fingers. It just they clicked before did the buy it now before I had any control.
So I've been working on my e-paper display.
That's cool.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
So I made a LED type of font.
Play Tetris on the right side.
And that's actually my battery indicator. So there's two batteries. That one's almost empty, and that one's pretty much full. This one is my remote battery on my Hummingbird station. This one is the local battery on the e-paper display, which is currently hooked up by USB to the computer, so it's full.
So what? Let's see the side view. Is it thick? Oh, you got it in a box.
Yeah. So it's about a little over a quarter of an inch with the standoffs.
Do you keep it on top of your monitor, or?
This is going to go in the windowsill. So when I look out at the Hummingbird station, I can see how full it is.
Is that what it measures? Is you got a measure out there to see how?
Yeah, the problem of the few months back was how can I monitor the fluid level in my Hummingbird feeder?
Oh,
And so
gotcha.
I have a strain gauge that weighs the feeder, and so this is a Wemos D1 Mini Pro, which has the LiPo charging circuit on it. So I've got a little LiPo battery stuck in the back there, and so I've got the screen area, so I figured I would include outdoor temperature and maybe humidity and some things like that on that display.
Nice. Next, you're going to want to count your hummingbirds.
Yeah.
There aren't any this time of the year, though, huh?
No, they're gone for the winter. It's relatively noisy. I suspect that the load cell can monitor a 2 or 3 gram hummingbird. But it might be a little difficult to pull it out of the noise that I've seen.
Well, they put sensors on cockroaches. They put Bluetooth things on cockroaches and excite their antenna.
Yep. Yeah, that's a little more sophisticated than what I'm doing, but I suspect that it's doable. Yeah, so I think I'm measuring it every 15 minutes, the weight. So it goes to sleep, wakes up, measures the weight, sends a small packet ESP now to my home network, and then goes back to sleep. This guy, so the e-paper is really low power while things are off. You can turn it all the way down, but you have to be awake for 20 or 30 seconds while it refreshes. And so if I want to refresh it every 15 minutes, or I guess I wake up more often than that to make sure I don't miss anything. So um, the hummingbird feeder is awake for about 40 milliseconds and can do all of its work before it goes back to sleep. This guy is awake for 40 seconds or so, 10,000 times longer. And so the battery does not last very long on this guy. So I may have to actually hook it up by USB, which defeats the purpose of having this really low power display. So I'm a little conflicted.
I have a question about the battery that's on the feeder.
Yeah.
How do you charge that?
I plug it into USB when I refill the nectar periodically.
I'm surprised you don't have a solar cell hooked up to charge the battery.
Oh, yeah, I could do that. I'd have to get some more electronics, I guess.
Yeah, I've noticed since the clock changed that the lights in front of my house, which get charged on solar cells, are no longer stay lit as long. They're duller and they're not lit as long.
There's not as much sunshine, is there, to charge up whatever
Yeah,
it's charging
exactly.
up?
Yeah, Rich, you're on twice. One's muted.
Okay, I'm having serious problems here. I can't. Anyway,
Well, we can hear you now. That was the first time. So
Yeah.
can you see me?
Yes.
Whoa.
You're fine. Don't do anything.
Okay.
If you want, I'll
We can
kick out the
handle
one
two
that's
of you.
not muted.
Do what?
I can kick out the one that's not muted if you want.
We can handle both of you. Don't worry about it.
Okay. Let's just.
Leave it the way it is. All right.
I've been trying to get this to work since 6:30.
I know you were
All right.
having problems the last time we met also.
We've seen
Yes.
it bouncing on and off, but
Anyway, I won't touch a thing.
all right. You gonna do any show and tell? What you been up
No,
to? You're done.
I'm fine.
Okay.
As you were.
My pickleball scoring, so that uses ESP now between my remote device and my display device. And I was missing transmissions. And so I added an acknowledgement. So when the score device, you press a button, it sends a message to the base station, and the base station sends a message back acknowledging receipt of it. And then the scoring device, if it doesn't get an acknowledgement within a certain amount of time, it resends the message with a little flag saying this is a retransmit. And I was getting into one when I was backing out the score, reversing the score. It would send the reverse score button press. It would either miss the acknowledgement or it would get it, but then retransmit. And the base station, since it got the first one and acknowledged it, thought that the second one was a new thing, and so it was backing up twice, and so I'm having to add some additional error checking and bookkeeping to keep
next
track.
thing you know, you got a whole TCP protocol.
Yeah, just like that. It's like TCP versus UDP. So that's kind of what I'm working on there. I've made no progress on analyzing my accelerometer data from the paddles.
On for the control on that score thing.
I'm sorry, what was the first couple words?
What did you settle on? I mean,
What
I
did I
remember a
settle on?
long time ago you were
Right.
talking about options.
So we're currently using it at my Thursday night games. But we have a small handheld device which has 3 buttons: advance the score, advance the serve, and back out the last command are the 3 buttons. And so as long as we have a scorekeeper, which is somebody that's sitting out not playing, that's willing to be watching the game and keep score, it works great. And people pick up the scorekeeping technique really quickly, so I don't have to be coaching them on what buttons to press and stuff. But I would like to be able to have it on my paddle or some way so that I could control it while I'm playing without too much of a cognitive load. When I had the remote in my pocket,
It's just like your stopwatch and recording when you get out of the car.
yep, you don't want to be thinking about that.
I know the feeling.
It needs to be real simple or totally automated.
I was going to do a brief presentation on the CH32V, the 10-cent CPUs that I've been playing with, and so if I can go through that.
Are they RISC-V?
Your RISC-V.
Yep.
This is the right. Okay. This is the little development board they have. I think I spent $8 on the development board. It's the chip itself. You get 50 for $6, which is pretty reasonable. It is you get in the development kit, which is $16 from Amazon and $6 from AliExpress. You get a little single wire programmer, which takes one wire into it and lets you program the chip. It's got 16K of flash memory. It's got 2K of RAM. And what I'm doing currently, I have a number of LED panels, all different types, that I use to do some of the research into plant growth. And one of the things I have to be able to do is to pulse them very briefly with certain frequencies of light. The brains behind this is a NVIDIA. Thank you, Paul, for your service, NVIDIA. So I've got an NVIDIA which has an ultra low light camera attached to it with specialized filters, and I do not want to attach my beautiful little NVIDIA card to a massive LED panel that's switching gobs of current. It just scares me. So the point of this little card is that it has these are galvanic isolators, and what it does is it takes the SPI bus, isolates it, and then switches then uses this chip to update the LEDs, and it can update the LEDs much faster than the damn NVIDIA, because it's a non-interrupt. The NVIDIA goes off and does stuff when it damn well pleases. This I can update using the APA 102 LEDs. I can update the entire LED panel in about a millisecond. So using one of these, so I can clock data out of this at 10 megahertz, which is not bad. This has a 48 megahertz chip, 48 megahertz clock, and it's a moderately sophisticated thing. It's got 16, 16, 20. It can have, depending on the package, up to 24 I/O channels. This only has about 8. There's one that is an 8-pin package, and it has power in like 5
Power ground reset and 5
yeah,
IOs,
5 IOs.
like an 8090.
Those are the expensive chips. Those are actually 4 cents a piece.
Oh,
It is the programming environment. They provide something moon something, which I got very frustrated and never got to work properly. I then went into Platform IO, which I dislike on principle. However, it worked very well. And so it's the code is, you simply write the C code and flash the device and you're all set.
so those LED panels, is each LED individually addressable?
Yes.
Okay, but you're programming them all to be the same color.
Well, it depends. There's some of the stuff I'm doing involves being able to change the colors. At the moment, I go from some of the LED panels I have are red, green, blue, white, so I can vary the color during the day when I illuminate a plant, and then when I go into taking data mode, I can create an exact spectrum and then create these pulses of light which trigger certain photosensors in the plant, and that's the data that I'm interested in. So I can pulse the plant at a kilohertz, which is pretty good for 256 LEDs. The 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 ESP is a fairly rich programming environment. I can't say the same thing for this. There are many fewer examples. The language on the manual is clearly, the person that wrote the manual, English was not their first language. Probably their third language.
I've seen that many times.
Oh yeah.
They're much down the pipe. And I had about a week of just I'm going to give up. I'm not going to use this. I'm going to find another way of doing it. And then it sort of, began to solidify. And as I can now, the SBI function. So the data is dumped from the NVIDIA. Thank you, Paul. From the NVIDIA through the isolators to this chip. And I've got a PC board that I spun that has the chip on it. So there's basically, you don't need anything else but the chip. Bypass capacitors would be nice, but not. It is low enough power, so unless you're doing something nasty, you can just use the chip. It's got an A to D converter on it. It's got counter timers. It's a very respectable 8-cent chip. And if anyone wants the PC boards, I spun out 10 of them, and I have 10 of that particular package, which is has more pins. I've got some.
What's the package for the chip?
Oh, this one is it's
hand solderable or not?
Well, I got the package that I got 50 of the. It's hand solvable, but the PC board is tiny, and it's going to be a pain in the ass. I've got these, which are the SOP 16s, I think, which are reasonably hand solderable, and I'm going to spin out a board for those too, which will have the isolators. It is kind of an obscure chip, and I'm an obscure person. I would, it's if anyone wants to delve into it, you can go it alone. But if I would suggest you talk to me because I've made all of the mistakes. If you want to duplicate my mistakes, feel free. But you
What's
know,
the tool chain?
I have done so many things wrong, and uh, and survived. So it is. All in all, I think was worth the time. You could run stepper motors easily off this thing. Um, the it's a the RISC-V instruction set is the I/O channels and the counter timers. Stepper motors would be trivial for it, and with the isolators I'm putting on it, you have a little isolated stepper motor driver. And it can keep track of the pulses and know approximately where it is. So I am uh, I continue my dislike of program of the operating system uh, of Microsoft
Platform.io.
and their take on
Oh,
things, but it works.
and why
Uh,
did you not like Platform.io?
yeah, platform.io. I plugged it in and it worked.
But why didn't you like it? Why was it distasteful to you?
It's clunky.
Oh, okay. It's an
Um,
operational thing, not a
yeah,
philosophical.
it is. It works by triggering. In this particular case, it works by shelling out processes that run. So if you upload code, you have a shell process that uploads the code, um, and that's just listed. If you try and upload code a second time, it fights you because there's already a shell running, and you've got to go over and click on something, and it just doesn't sit well.
Hmm.
um, and I'm getting a little more used to it, and it uh, the platform IO is sort of a very it's a moderately good shell, but as I it execs everything is done by execing processes, and it's I'm it works.
Yeah.
That's the best and the worst I can say about it. But it's these chips are. I've got some of the 8-pin ones coming just because I couldn't not. It was $4 for 50 of them. It's $4 50 of yeah, it's $4 for 50 of them. I mean, they're just
Dang.
ridiculous. And you can throw them. You can get a little header board. You can't get a 555 for that price. It's
And
it,
are you using WS2812 on your LEDs?
about what?
Are your LEDs WS2812 or like what
No,
is
no,
the?
no. They're APA 102s,
Oh, yeah.
and the
Okay.
APA 102 is a the WS is a relies on timing
Right.
um, to acquire the signal. So you've got an upper limit on the speed. The APAs are a two-wire system. It's sort of like an SPI, so you can push them a lot faster. So this panel here is a one wire WPA. The larger panels I have, and I've got all sorts of strips and stuff like that that are the APAs, and the APAs are if you want to run them really really fast, um, you got no sane person would want to run their LEDs at a kilohertz. That's way way above the flicker rate. Um, but if you're using them to strobe a spectrometer, um, that's a quite reasonable thing to do. So I can
So you're
uh,
strobing a spectrometer, but when you say
yeah.
spectra, then you're really only dealing with roughly three spectra, spectrum,
I
three
have
frequencies or so. in
I have
different
two
mixes?
spectrometers. They're both 2,000 point spectrometers. One is a UV, which goes from about 180 nanometers to about 800 nanometers, and the other is an IR, which goes from about 400 nanometers to about 1,200 nanometers.
So I'm just curious. So like these are you're doing, but you're putting your RGB LEDs into them, right?
Right.
So
I'm pulsing the RGB. The LEDs are about 480 nanometers, which is ideal for a plant.
the blue.
The blue.
I got you.
So I pulse the plant at 480 nanometers, and this gives me the ability to look at there are other flavonoids and other resonances in the plant that I can at least look at with other frequencies. So I have I don't think I have it around. I've got
You're looking at the reflection coming back.
yeah, I've
Okay.
got I can actually do Raman if I excite the plant with a laser, and Raman gives me very complicated resonant data that tells me exactly what the chemistry is. This is a little cruder than that. I'm looking at the energy dumping out of the chloroplast. I
That's
can
cool.
the entire device is built into a Lowe's bucket, and the LEDs go at the top of the bucket. The bucket itself goes over the plant. The inside of the bucket has a semi-reflective coat. The bucket is painted black, and for a while I was embarrassed because it looked like a bucket, and then I decided, to hell with it, I'm going to call it the bucket. And so it's called the bucket, and there are three heads that I have for it. One is it will take either one of my spectrometers, and I have a good sized lens so that I can very accurately collect the data. I have an 18 channel an 18 channel chip set that looks at the spectral data, and I have a camera which has been specially tuned to look at that particular IR signature. So I've got three devices that are built into the bucket. And
nice.
I was very
happy.
happy.
You confused me at first. I thought you were saying you were pulsing different spectra at it using an RGB, and I was like, it doesn't really mix like that. But no, you're using the blue mostly.
I'm using the
but
blue.
You can also put the others in if you want to.
The other, there are questions in terms of what spectral data the plant that you're growing likes the best. So you can put the plant in the chamber. You can leave it in there for days, change go from morning light to evening light, do all sorts of stuff, and then at various points shut the lights down, go into the blue mode, and actually take data on how the plant is behaving under those conditions.
And are these potted plants, or are these meters full of algae or something?
The moment I have when I was at UMass, I had 2 gigantic greenhouses and 40 acres of soy that we used to work on. I now have a Christmas cactus. A Christmas cactus. It is, my plant physiologists would not let me into the greenhouses because they complained that I would kill plants, which is true. It is. I'm not. I shouldn't be trusted. Apparently, there's a whole process of watering the plant that I'm just now beginning to understand. This is specifically designed to be able to work with a robot, so that the bucket can go on a robot and it can go up and down a field and give you data. And it is I've got interest from strawberry growers. I've got interest from people who, for some reason, have a lot of money and are growing this stuff called hemp. I don't understand it, but they seem to have a great deal of money, and they really like the idea of looking at their plants glowing. Um, so it is, you know, I've been to a number of their conferences. I don't know what the hell they're talking about. They've got more money than sense, but I'll take their money. And so you can put the bucket over a hemp plant and get very accurate, real-time, non-invasive data on how effectively the plant is growing,
Cool.
which hemp growers seem to like. I can go, you know, I'll try for the next meeting or the one after that to have some video of the thing. It's actually, when you see a plant glow at certain frequencies, it's kind of, it sends chills down my spine, you know, because you're actually watching the plant do something. And it's a it's a you don't, the plant turns on, um, you expose it to the blue light, it takes about a second and it starts to glow intensely. And then that intense glow trails off over the next 45 seconds. And by looking at the shape of the glow, you can tell how efficiently the plant is making sugar. So that was my foray into these stupid 10-cent chips. They you know, they behave rather well.
I just got kicked off. Anybody else?
Well, it's a welcome back.
That
Thank
happened to
you.
me last time.
That's weird.
Yeah.
So if you have any questions about cheap Chinese CPUs or growing pot, I apparently know a little about both of them. I also have access to the state labs where they analyze. I'm not growing pot in my cupboard.
Did they finally figure out you're not a professor?
No, they, you know, it's, as I say, it's 10 years at UMass was it gives me some creds. I built these for NASA and Monsanto and all sorts of people like that.
Right. Does anybody else have show and tell? Does anyone have ideas for what they'd like for future meetings, presentations, perhaps?
We might think about shop tours, although I have more stuff in my shop than most people, which is not a good thing. I have, you know, 200 megahertz A to D converter, which I could show people, and it impresses me.
Yeah, somebody once said the person who dies with the most parts loses.
Yeah, well, it's you know, it's either I spend my money on you know, development kits, or what is it? Groucho Marx said if he won the lottery, he'd spend the money on whiskey, cigars, and women, and the rest he would waste.
Okay.
Well, we could try to solve world problems with some electronic gadget.
Yeah, well, it's let's see, we can solve the Middle East and Yugoslavia in one, you know, one swoop with a 10-cent CPU.
Yugoslavia, you mean Ukraine?
Ukraine, yes. Well, Yugoslavia is next. It's all these U places.
Yeah, I don't think we got to solve anything in Yugoslavia right now.
Yeah, well, it's you know, Putin hasn't decided that he's not going there yet.
If he gets Ukraine, he will, maybe.
Yeah, well, it's
He'll probably do Moldova and what's that other one?
supposedly he's lost 40% of his tanks, which has to hurt.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't like the Abrams tank.
Yeah, they don't like these drones that drop hand grenades down the turrets, either of them.
Yeah.
You know, if you can take a $3 million tank and destroy it with an $800 drone, let me see.
You
It's
can
got
buy
to
a lot
piss
of
them off.
drones. All right, so we'll plan on doing another virtual in December, and we will do some investigation to try to find a place for an in-person in January. Let me just see. November, December, January. So January 8th is the second Monday of January. All right, well, everyone have a great Thanksgiving, and we'll see you in a
And
All
month.
we'll
right.
do this again.
See you in a
Yes.
month.